just talked about your birthday. What did you do to celebrate yesterday?
I came in here. We got to work. We had a nice walkthrough. And then we went through the rest of the stuff that we had to. Got practice ready for today. And then I got a chance to go home and hang out with my kids from 7 to 9 or so. It was perfect. Perfect day. Perfect day.
You're used to that during camp, though, aren't you?
Yeah. That was an earlier night, which was great.
Talk about today and just how today went.
I thought nice. The good thing about today is that we finally got a little bit of heat, and it's not hot, but we got a little bit of heat. I'm hoping this continues to ramp up a little bit. We found some people breaking points at points in time all the way around, and I think that ultimately we just got to, in the face of adversity, just stay the course, right? Keep it even keeled and make sure that we're ready to just continue to give and not take in those crucial moments when you feel like you can't go anymore. How do I still find a way to give instead of looking for ways to take, whether it be plays off or energy away from other people? Those are all things that we just got to continue to work on, and today was a good day of it. Again, hopefully this heat picks up and we continue to put them in those adverse situations, but I thought overall pretty good job today.
Does this start to become the most difficult part of camp, kind of the dog days of camp right now?
Yeah, well, the other thing too is that they moved out of the dorms. We're all together living in the dorms for those first 10 days. So now everybody's out at their apartments driving in. Now you worry about what time they get to bed, what their rest looks like, all the things that come along with it. But it's a perfect time because they'll have another not even quite 10 days of that before the first day of school starts. So in stages of everybody locked in, what time you're going to bed, everything taken care of, to now a little bit of freedom, and then the ultimate distractions start to show up along with the freedom, and we got to make sure that they can manage that well. So I think it's that stuff. Not when they get out here, they're going to be great. When they get in the weight room, they're going to be great. I just think it's the stuff that, do they prepare themselves properly to get out here and execute and have a really, really good day, based on their preparation the night before and what time they wake up, all the stuff that comes with it.
Do things change with practice now as you get closer to game day? Another week is here. Is anything different with how you do practice?
I mean, now you're starting to get into more like situational, and you're starting to get into more scheme. So for us, ultimately on special teams in particular, a lot of it was the foundations and the building blocks of how to take on a block and get off a block and get over the top, and how far away is the returner, can I evade this block, and we're actually two-gap it, all the stuff that comes with it in all of the special teams facets, and a lot of our fundamentals offensively and defensively overall. But now the fundamental, now it starts to shift to scheme a little bit more in the special team side, and we start to advance in the situational awareness a lot more when we get to the offense and defensive side of it. So yeah, it shifts a little bit, gets more game-like in certain periods, but again, we still got to continue to be fundamentally sound, schematically competent, situationally aware, and protect the football.
What did you learn about this team from the scrimmage on Saturday?
Ultimately, as you went through it, it was just an idea of us just trying to figure out, the 2-minute scenarios, the red zone goal line live. I think it was what we thought it was going to be when it got to the live period. So there was nothing, crazy in there. It was the 2-minute scenarios that we just got to continue to brush up and get a little bit better at. So those were the things that I think, if we fell short anywhere, it was there. But that's why at the end here, we were doing what we were doing, and what we'll, begin to drop those into the middle of practices along the way.
Did you like what you saw from both sides on Saturday?
I did, and I'll tell you what, I keep talking about the younger group that were freshmen, going to be sophomores, and those sophomores that were going to be juniors. That when that group went out there at the end of the scrimmage, it was electric, and they loved playing. They were having fun. They were playing some really solid, good football, which enables us to look at some guys and say, maybe is this an opportunity and a moment to bump some guys out. It was really good.
How did you see them handle playing later in the day on Saturday compared to your morning practices usually?
Yeah, I mean, when you come out under the lights, it's pretty, exciting. So no matter what you do, it's cooler, the lights are on, the sun's setting, all the stuff that comes with it, and makes it such a great atmosphere. I think it's just something you feed off a little bit. So the energy was right, the attitude was right, the intensity was right. I thought they did a good job of handling that.
How much weight do you put on the scrimmages? Because I know it's not like in college there's preseason games. That's probably like the closest thing you get to a game-like situation. But how much weight do you kind of put on that in terms of evaluation?
Well, it's more the mental aspect of things that comes up to it. We're still going to run like a practice. There's going to be more 11 on 11 than there might be. There'll be more live periods than maybe there might be. But ultimately, it's not a whole lot different, except for what do they make of it, and how, the height do they get in certain scenarios, and who's the guys that will tip over pretty quickly because they're riding, too close to the edge. Those are all the things you're just kind of taking a look at ultimately. But there's some parents here, some fans here, some things like that, and made it made it a decent little environment, but you're just trying to evaluate that mental side of it. But it's still just a glorified practice when it comes down to it, where we're still trying to get a certain amount of plays done in a certain amount of time. And it's a lot of things that are controlled. We're in a game that becomes very uncontrolled, so having the right attitude and the right intensity, but being able to balance it and compose yourself is also crucially important. So all those little things we're just taking a look at and evaluating.
How much do you like having your two scrimmages pretty close together so you kind of get almost a back-to-back look at what they look like in it?
Meaning?
Just like, how much does it help to see how much you were able to change and correct from that first one to the second one in a shorter amount of time?
Yeah, well, I think for me, it's the same thing. From game 1 to game 2, should be your most improved. I think for us last year it was game 2 to game 3 that was our most improved. But now that's what I said to these guys is take these things pretty serious, and any mistakes and issues that you might have had, make sure from scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2 they get cleaned up. And that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to try to put people in the same exact scenario and see if they make the same exact mistakes or not. Hopefully there's growth in there.
How's Jordan Fuller kind of integrating himself into what was already pretty deep experience running back?
Yeah, he's great, man. He's a fun player to watch. I mean, when you watch him physically, he's very sound. He's fundamentally sound. He's strong, and he knows how to use his leverage and his strength and his body, all of it. So he does a really good job. And a lot of the clips we pulled up when we were in the short yardage scenario the other day, a lot of them were him, just doing some really good things. So it was important that, we have an idea of, that is a huge attribute that he brings to the table. Not only that, he does a lot of other things really well, but everybody's a little different in that room. So it's kind of neat to see what their strengths and weaknesses are and make sure we got to play to those when it comes game time.
In the wide receiver room, how have you seen this group benefit now with a scrimmage and a certain number of practices under their belt from their height?
Yeah, well, so I think that there was a practice in the middle there that was pretty average, right? It was pretty average, and then we got to some third downs the other day that were a little bit above average. We're looking for elite though here from that group, and that's what we got to get ourselves to. And we're close. We just got to make sure we finish some of the things that we're doing. It's just little tiny intricacies within that play that just got to be really honed in on and really executed at an elite level. And then the hard catches. Sometimes there are hard catches, and we just got to make sure we're coming down with those. So I think every day we get a little bit better, but it's one of those groups right now that it's exciting to watch. We just got to make sure that we're able to produce when it matters the most.
When you're watching them, whether it's at practice or at the scrimmage, how much do you notice the age of the offensive line and kind of their maturity and experience?
Pat's just like he's just so steady and he's so patient and he's so calm. And I watch him on the bench, like when we had our halftime in the scrimmage, I watched a lot of guys coming to him and him going to other guys. And that's really important because he's seen a lot of football. So it's important that he leads that way. Greenberg, I think, does a great job on the communication side inside. Sweezy, I watch communicating with everybody on that side. So there's 3 or 4 really good leaders in there that just got to continue to be that. But you definitely notice that there's composure in there. And then there were a couple younger guys that in pretty adverse situations, you watch them get a little frazzled, and you watch those guys before it becomes anything more, they're over there fixing it and correcting it pretty quickly. And that's what we need to be able to do. That senior leadership has to show up, especially in that side.